Now, guys, as I said, we are taking a deeper dive into the parabola. We are now going to look at one of the troublesome problems in mathematics involving functions. Okay, and the reason this troublesome is because learners look at this and they see a parabola sketched with lines joined and all that, and you get this headache and it's be like, what? Guys, remember, I said to you, mathematics actually helps us to understand what goes on in real life. And this is a real life problem. We need to be able to interpret this. Bridges are built around functions. Okay. Financial problems are solved around functions. Okay. So we need to know now the interpretation of some of these functions in a real life case. Let's see what's going on here. In this diagram, the defining equation of f is given there. It is y equals to 1 over 8x squared minus 2. Now we are given also the line G. Here is the line G that passes through 4. In other words, this point here is actually 0 and 4. So you can actually fill up this information as you read through the diagram. And then you see it's on the y-axis and it is parallel to the x-axis. Now, what do you remember from analytical geometry? What is the equation of a line that is parallel to the x-axis? I hope you remember it will have the form y equals to k. In this case, k is 4. Therefore, for g, actually the equation for g is y equals to 4. E and f are the x-intercepts of f. So where's E? Here is E, there's F. Those are x-intercepts. We know that y is 0 there. And then G is the turning point. There is G also, Q, our Q basically. So you know you can find the, then definitely this is going to be 0 and -2 because it's a turning point. If you want to find the intercepts, you could have solved the equation 0 equals to 1 over 8x squared minus 2, which means that 2 is equals to 1 over 8x squared, and so 16 equals to x squared. Therefore, x is plus minus 4. Notice the importance of plus minus. I said to you, when solving equations, you need to look at the degree of the equation. If it's a cube, then there are 3 solutions. If it's a square, there's 2 solutions. If it's just x, there's 1 solution. So here we've got 2 solutions, though the value is, though the number is just 4, but now the other is positive, the other is negative. So this means at E here, we're actually having a -4 and 0. And at F, we're actually having a 4 and 0. See how I'm using the information to actually now get some light on what is going on in my graph. I'm given point H, which is -2 and 0, as well as K, which is 1 and 0. Now, we have to answer the following questions fully. And what I'm doing here, guys, is to show you actually a skill that you need to absorb. A skill that you guys will need to use when you answer questions like this in your exam. 1, determine the length of OG. Where is OG? Here is O is at the origin. Where is G? G is down here. OE and OF. So in other words, from here to here, that's OG. What is the length? Well, we know that this is on the y-axis, so the length must be expressed in terms of y values. So what is the distance here? Is 2. But what does the negative tell us now here? Means downwards. Okay, so the length of OG is actually 2 units. If you want to give direction, you can say downwards. But it is a positive 2, not a -2, because length or distance is never negative. Okay. OE, where is OE? OE from here to here. We know that this now is on the x-axis, so the distance must be in terms of x values. So what is the distance of x values from 0 to there? It is 4. Just to the negative here means what? To the left. So we know OE is actually 4 units. Again, because it is a length, we cannot say -4. I'm surely going to put you wrong, mark you wrong, if you put a -4 for a distance or for a length. That is not correct. Okay. OF we can see we have that. You see why I put the intercepts. OF is also 4 units. In essence, OF is actually equal to OE. So another question from this could have been prove that OE is equal to OF. And this is what you would have done. Now, HI, here is HI. Now, this means I have to first find the y coordinate for I, because this is parallel to the y-axis. I must find this distance in terms of the y values. So I know, fortunately, the x value here at I, the x value is -2, because HI and I mean H and I are on the same line. Okay, so what I can do now, I lies on the parabola. So I can actually substitute a -2 on the parabola to find the y value for I. So 1/8 times 4 minus 2, okay? This is actually 4/8 minus 2, but 4/8 is actually a half minus 2. So this is a -1.5. So this is -1.5. So actually the distance HI is 1.5 units. Once again, not -1.5 units. I'll keep on stressing this. Finally, well, number 3, write down the equation of the line G. Guess what? We have already written this one. This is y equals to 4. Determine the lengths AB, OD, and JL. Where is AB here? There's B, and there's A. So we've got to find that point. We know the y coordinate here because of the line G, so this is something x and a 4. Now, this is on this parabola also, so we know the line G is not helpful because it does not have a x in it, so I must find the x value at B, so I must actually solve again in the parabola. I must substitute the y value there and have 1/8 x squared minus 2, which is 6, equals to x squared over 8. And this actually implies that I've got to multiply 8 by 6. So we've got to remember our times tables there. So this is a 48, which is x squared. Therefore, x is actually plus minus square root of 48. Quick question for you. Quick question for you. Where is the other value? Obviously, this one is going to be a negative square root of 48 and a 0. This is those are correct. Now, where should be the other value be? Of course, if you will use the fact that we've got axis of symmetry on the y-axis, so that means a point equidistant, this point actually here, D, should actually have the positive value. So that's a positive square root and 0. Well done if you got that. So that will be, now I know the length of AB is actually square root of 48. What about OD? OD, guess what? It is actually or equal to OAB. And what about JL? J is here, and there's L. You know the X value at J is 1. And so that's what you've got to put in there. So we just have to substitute again on the parabola when x equals to 1. And I hope you can see you're going to have 1/8 minus a 2 there. So that's going to be the y value. And so what about L? I hope you can see also that at L, the y value there is 4. So you've got 1 and 4 actually. So you're going to have 4 units plus this much units. And remember, though this value might be negative, you are actually going to use the positive part. So you're going to add this to the 4 there, and that will be your JL. The critical question that I want to really discuss here is the last one, number 5. For which values of x is f of x less than g of x? Of course, g of x is the straight line, although it doesn't have an expression for, it doesn't have the x value, but yes. What this means, guys, is you are actually going to look at the y values of the parabola, and you are going to check at which point in the graph are the y values of the parabola less than the y values of the straight line. In this case, the straight line has one constant y value, that is 4. So you can see then that from this point downwards, the y values of the parabola are actually less than the y value of the straight line. So between this, actually between the points A and C, this region here is the one that actually satisfies this inequality. This one does not, because you can see the y value of the parabolas are above 4 here. Y value here is actually way above 4. So the region that we consider, what was the x coordinate at A? We had found it. It was the square root of 48. Remember that. The same thing at C. This one was minus, and the same thing at C. It was square root of 48. So for which x values, we can say then answer this either in an inequality form or without an inequality. Now, in an inequality form, we'll say, well, x has to be between the positive square root of 48 and the negative square root of 48. Otherwise, if you want to write this in interval form, you would say, well, x has to be from square root of negative 48 to the positive square root of 48. That's how you would have answered it. And notice, for the interval case, I use square brackets because we've got inclusion in our inequality sign. If it was strictly less than, I would use round brackets. The same thing here, if it was strictly less than, I would obviously not use the less or equal to, I'll just use less than. Guys, I hope you understood this. And of course, if I'm losing you somewhere else, yes, throw that question in the group or direct message Mr. G, ask, so what's going on here? Otherwise, this is one of the critical questions. The next thing that comes out from this, guys, is for you to actually complete tutorial 4. Tutorial 4 is to actually test your knowledge on the parabola. It has the difficult questions also, so please go ahead after watching all these videos for this week. Test your knowledge on the parabola. And of course, once we are done, we are moving on to the next algebraic function, which is the hyperbolic function. Stay tuned.